One of the big hits of early 2018 is Dragon Ball FighterZ, and if you're a huge fan of the franchise and this is one of your first fighting games, you might be thinking to yourself, you want to get a fight stick or some kind of fighting game focused controller. So what are the options out there for you? First, let's talk fight sticks. Now, when you're looking into fight sticks, generally you're going to see them fall into one of two different size categories. The smaller and more affordable, which can look like this. Now, this one is branded for Street Fighter V, but the main point of this controller is to show that a lot of these smaller ones like to use a 6-button setup, which if you've just started Dragon Ball FighterZ, might worry you a little bit because it seems like the game needs all 8 buttons. It uses all 4 front-facing and all 4 shoulders. But in fact, you actually can use it like a 6-button fighter because you can simulate 2 of those 8 buttons by using simultaneous button presses. For example, you could use light and medium attack at the same time to do a Dragon Rush. So with that in mind and some button reconfiguration, you can use a 6-button setup like this no problem in Dragon Ball, although honestly, for me personally, I still like using an 8-button setup because that means you never have any situations where you have to hit 4 buttons simultaneously. You're only ever going to rely on either 2 or 1 button press. Now, on the other hand, if you want to get serious and throw down some real money, you can get a full-size stick like these big guys right here. Now, these are both examples for what you can get on the PS4, and these are some of the more popular options. This right here is the Hori Real Arcade Pro 4, and it's worth noting that they do make an Xbox One version of this stick as well. And over here, we have the even more expensive option, which is the Conbot Obsidian. Now first, let's actually talk about this more expensive one right here and why it's expensive. So the main reason for the pricing on this one is that this makes use of what are called Sanwa Denshi buttons and sticks, which, if you haven't heard of them before, that's basically the industry standard for arcade systems. That's like the serious buttons that you'll see at actual arcade setups, and it's basically the go-to for a lot of the pro players. Now, on the other hand, with the Real Arcade Pro, this is Hori using their own manufactured in-house buttons, which they call the Hayabusa stick and buttons, which are still good, just not quite up to the same snuff as these ones right here, especially since this actually has like some name power behind it.
What? Beerus is here?
You forgot to say Lord.
As for how this actually plays out in first-hand experience, for being $50 less, the Real Arcade Pro 4 actually comes very, very close to the Obsidian. Now, if you're like a really high-level player and you know how to notice all the minute differences, yes, you're probably gonna have opinions about which one's better, and honestly, I'm not sure why you're watching this video. But for people that are new to fighters and just want to get investing into a stick, this is a really solid option. The main place you're gonna notice a difference is when it comes to those buttons I was talking about earlier. There's a reason why the Sanwa Denshi are a sort of industry standard. They have a perfect balance of needing just enough pressure to activate, but they're not going to be accidentally pressed too often. The Hayabusa ones in the Real Arcade Pro 4, on the other hand, are a little more sensitive. It's enough to where you're not going to be accidentally pressing buttons all the time. It's not as though the slightest breeze is going to activate all these buttons up here, but if you are very particular and you have a habit of accidentally flailing a little much, the extra sensitivity of these can be an issue. Also, if you're the kind of player that likes to flail around a lot, having the options button up here with all the others can be a problem, because if you're hitting stuff constantly and you accidentally graze this thing, you are going to pause mid-match, which is, well, a problem. Otherwise though, when we're just talking about the build quality of the body, the stick quality, everything else here is pretty much on par. So if you're looking to invest in an actual serious fighting stick for starting to play Dragon Ball FighterZ, this is going to be an awesome option for $50 less, and if you want to go all out, the Obsidian is going to be the one you want to look at. They're both using square gates, which you can modify to an octagon if you prefer. I'm trying to find. Yeah, I know. Now, of course, fight sticks are not the only option. You can choose to just stick with a good old-fashioned gamepad, and while you can use the stock one that comes with your system, you can look into those that are made specifically for fighting games in mind, one of the most popular of which is the Fighting Commander from Hori, which is available on both PlayStation and Xbox. The Fighting Commander is an awesome controller for most fighting games, but for Dragon Ball in particular, there are some things to keep in mind that might win or lose you over it. First off, this thing was designed for 6-button fighters in mind, like Street Fighter, so it has the 6-button setup on the front, which, like I said, you can treat Dragon Ball like a 6-button fighter, but it's a little more awkward on a gamepad than it is on a fight stick, because when you want to hit these buttons simultaneously, you either have to quickly wrap your hand around to hit 2, or kind of just smash 2 at once with your thumb, which really isn't the most precise gesture. You do still have shoulder buttons, so you can use those if you prefer, but because the Fighting Commander was definitely made for Street Fighter in mind, the shoulder buttons are, well, not that great. They'll get the job done, they're just not as good as the front-facing buttons are. That aside, this controller does have some awesome benefits over regular ones. For instance, if you like using D-pad for your fighters, this one is just a much better option than the ones that are going to come on a regular Xbox One or PlayStation 4 controller. So if you like using D-pad and you don't mind using the kind of okay shoulder buttons, this is an awesome alternative option. If, however, you prefer using stick and you don't like the idea of the 6-button setup on the front, honestly, the stock Xbox One or PS4 controller is still a great option for Dragon Ball FighterZ.